It's pretty obvious that we have a big issue in Canada at the moment with Mark Carney being elected, well, not being elected, being put into the position of Prime Minister by Liberal voters, by about 200,000 of them. When you think there's 40 million people in Canada, that's not anywhere near a minor minority, is it? The way the Canadian system works, yeah, that's fine. He's been put there, and hopefully in about, we're thinking maybe the end of April, maybe even a little bit further, we might actually get an election and people might actually be able to vote for the government that they want. But at the moment, we're stuck with Mark Carney, and we're stuck with his net zero zealot of a wife, and his carbon tax ideas to tax steel industry. He's going to keep it on the steel industry and doesn't think that's going to affect any of us. I think it just might.
Secondly, what we're going to do is make sure not that the government pays, not that we as taxpayers pay, but the large polluters pay. And so what happens...
But does that not ultimately trickle down?
No, because what the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, you know, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd? I mean, not as much we used to. So anyway.
Anyway, what I want to talk about is what Michael Barrett was emphasizing in the video I'm going to show you in a minute, where he's doing the bare minimum. He's doing basically what he said in a recent interview with Questions Afterwards in England, is that he is doing the bare minimum for somebody who's been put in a place that he shouldn't really be in, really, although that's the way the cookie crumbles in Canada now. You know, you can be a non-elected prime minister now. These are crazy times, things that we've never seen in our lifetime, at least in Canada, going on here on our shores. So let's just have a listen to Michael Barrett.
He doesn't understand why the media and why the opposition keep asking questions. Now, every time he's asked about his connections to Brookfield Asset Management or his conflicts, he becomes defensive, he deflects, and then he attacks. Remember what he told all of you and all Canadians after the Liberals' English language leaders debate in Montreal. He said, quote, "I do not have a connection with Brookfield Asset Management," end quote. Now, I'm sure each and every one of you saw his exchange with reporters in London yesterday. Now, did that sound to you like someone who didn't have any connections to Brookfield? And recall what his office said last week, quote, "Despite repeated attempts, Carney's transition team have declined to clarify if the new Prime Minister still possesses any financial interests in Brookfield," end quote. So apparently, Mark Carney doesn't think that Canadians deserve to know before they vote, and apparently he thinks answering questions on this subject is beneath him.
So yeah, the worrying thing is about the Brookfield investments, that not just the fact that he moved his company, which he made the decision, we know now that he made the decision before he was up for nomination for Prime Minister of Canada. He pushed the office of this large company that's pretty much behind heat pumps to the USA. Now, the fact that we're going to have an election at the end of April, and the fact that we got to wait until maybe later than that, over 100 and some days, to get the feedback on what his ties are in business, is very disturbing for Canadians, because you could be voting somebody in who's going to make decisions that will benefit his assets. Now, that could change the course of everything that goes on in Canada. Let's just say, allegedly, that he has still got shares in Brookfield, and they're still pushing out the heat pumps, right? They have a subsidiary, a piece of them that builds and distributes heat pumps. Let's just say that that's one of the things that he's behind. And then when he becomes Prime Minister, he then suddenly comes out with a net zero initiative over the next 5 years that everybody has to get rid of their gas heaters, get rid of their oil heaters, and everybody must have a heat pump. This is theoretically. How is that not a conflict of interest that we should have known about before he got elected to be prime? If he gets elected to be, oh God help us, if he gets elected to be Prime Minister, it's really, really difficult to explain the craziness of what could go on in Canada if this is what happens. The other thing could be electric vehicles as well. It could be that he has some sort of interest in EV batteries, or maybe, well, not mining, but because he's well against that, so we'd have to get all our stuff from China or something. But he could have an interest in some other company, and and then push that. We need to know before the election what his conflicts of interest are before we all go out to vote. A little bit like we should really know who the traitors were, but we're never going to find that out, are we? Anyway, that's enough. I just wanted to get that over to people, that this is why reporters are asking so many questions about his conflicts of interest, and he's really, really defensive on it, saying, well, basically, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This guy should be doing more than just the bare minimum. He should be going out of his way to say, look, this is what I have an interest in, and this is what I'm going to tell you all. But he's not going to do that, is he? He isn't going to do that. He's going to do the bare minimum, try and get over the election line, and then fight the election without disclosing his conflicts of interest. All right, I'll see you in the next one.